Hey there, and welcome to Teaching for Life. I'm Sarah Donovan. Thanks for coming back. And if you're here for the first time, thanks for joining us. So on this channel, I talk about making the transition from being a classroom teacher to being a professor in higher education, in addition to a lot of other things related to being a teacher and staying in the career. You invested so much time and money into who you are, and you have such great expertise and wisdom. We want you to stay in the career as long as you can, and I have some ideas for that. So when it comes time to thinking about joining a PhD program or starting a PhD program, I have a couple tips for you to think about. So there's 10, so stay with me and we're going to tackle those one at a time. So number one, understand your motivation. Why do you want a PhD? So probably if you're asking about the PhD, it means because you already have a master's degree in something and you're ready to go back to school. Maybe you enjoyed school. Maybe you know that this is a stepping stone towards something else to advance your career and deepen your knowledge about something that you're concerned about. So reflect on your goals and write them down. And this is going to be your anchor as you're pursuing the challenging parts of being in a PhD or applying. So for me, I was in my 6th year teaching junior high. I had started with a master's degree because my previous career was a social worker. I was a social worker in the Cook County Jail for about 7 years before I made the transition to go back to school to learn how to become a teacher. More about that, if you're interested, I can make a video about that. And so I came into the teaching profession with a master's degree. And so about year 6, I was feeling like I wanted to quit. I was burned out and I did not know what my options were. So I reached out to my professors and my master's program and asked him what my options would be. And at that point, he said, you should apply for a PhD and you could teach some of our master's courses, our undergraduate courses, not master's, our undergraduate courses. And we would offer you a stipend for that or some funding for your PhD. Also, I was thinking about studying abroad or teaching abroad, so I was pursuing that as well. Basically, I just didn't want to leave teaching yet. I knew that I needed more. Knew that I was burning out, and I felt like I deserved it to myself, or I owed it to myself to figure out how I can extend my career at this point. So that was my motivation to not burn out. And the second part is, why was I burning out? And mostly I was burning out because there were a lot of institutional policies in school that I didn't really learn about in my master's program. And I was coming up against new mandates and new policies, specifically ones related to English learners in my school that I didn't really understand. And I was feeling hopeless. I was feeling de-agented or like without any agency or autonomy, and I wanted to figure out how to do that. And specifically, when I started teaching, there was a mandate to teach about genocide in our schools. This was around 2004, and I had already learned a little bit about how Holocaust education, but that also I was underprepared for in my master's program. Gosh, English teachers have to teach everything, don't they? And I didn't know how to read the Holocaust literature really well with the students. I was teaching junior high. And then with this genocide mandate, I was like, where are the rules? Where's the training? Where's the funding? Like, how do I learn how to do this? And that was absent. So all these kind of things snowballed into me wanting to earn my PhD and figure all of this out. So that was my key motivation that I wanted to hang on to the whole time. Okay, number 2, you want to research your programs thoroughly. So I had a couple options for me. I knew I needed to keep my teaching job because that's where my insurance and that's where my income was coming from. And even if I had a PhD program with funding, it wouldn't be enough to cover my mortgage and my car payment and all of the housing bills and the bills and things like that. The other thing is not all PhD programs are the same. Some offer you that full funding that I was talking about. So in exchange for teaching a graduate course, they might cover your tuition, or if you teach 2 graduate courses, you might have your tuition covered and get a stipend, but still in total, it's going to be maybe $12,000 to $14,000 a year. And free tuition. So it adds up to almost a full-time job with really low pay, but not enough if you are the only income provider in your family. So some programs offer that funding and others do not. It's all on your dime. The second thing is I wasn't sure if I wanted to go into an English PhD program or an education PhD program. And I met with my advisors to talk about that and what that would mean for each thing. So the English degree is more of a humanities degree where I was reading a lot of literature and doing literary critique and thinking about theoretical things. I was also developing my understanding of how stories work and how we read literature and how literature represents atrocities, which is really something I was interested in related to genocide education. However, the education program would offer me more of the curriculum, the pedagogy, the historical education background, and it's more of a, but the research there is a little bit more quantitative, where I would have to do some things with numbers, also more policy related, where I was more interested in thinking about the stories and the literature. So for me, I chose the English program, and I was able to take courses in the education department to help balance out. So I have an PhD in English with the concentration in education, and they were able to modify the program as I needed to. That served my interests. I had great advisors there. So you want to research your programs really carefully to find out. Number 3, you want to think about your time commitment. So as a teacher, you're already super busy and you can't imagine yourself doing one more thing. And I bet your family, if you have a spouse or children or even pets or elderly parents who need your attention, your family probably wondering where you are all the time anyway. So how are you going to fit in a PhD program? Well, on one hand, if you're going to take the PhD full time and quit your teaching job, then you'll have a little bit more time to do that. You'll probably take 2 or 3 classes a week and might teach 2 or 3 classes at night. And you'll have weekends to study, but you have lots more flexibility because your classes tend not to meet every day at the same time. So you'll have lots more pockets of studying. If you are keeping your full-time job, that means you're going to school all day and then you have to leave school to go to class at night, and you're probably spending your weekends doing your homework. So that's time commitment. Again, it's like having 2 jobs, which you might already have 2 jobs because teaching doesn't pay very well. So think about it as a 3rd job or a 4th job. That is a lot. So I really encourage you to talk to your family about this. My husband, my partner, and I, we had a long conversation about what this might mean for me, in addition to some of the support that I was getting from the program. So what this meant for me is I decided to take 1 year leave of absence without pay. So my partner had a full-time job. We looked at our budget and we would be able to manage 1 year on 1 salary. And so I took that first year and I taught a couple classes at the university, and I took a whole bunch of classes, as many as I could for that year that I had funding. And then I returned to teach the next year. And the next year I went back to full-time teaching, and then I taught a class at night and I took my classes at night, and I worked on that throughout my program. So I never really left my teaching job. I always taught my teaching job, my K-12 teaching job in junior high, and I was also working at the university. Later in the program, I was able to go part-time as my teaching job. So I was able to take a 50% salary because I had insurance with my partner. And then I taught 1 class at my school, 1 class at another local college, and I was finishing up my coursework. So it's not really the same all the way through. The PhD program is typically 3 or 4 years of courses, depending on how quickly you move through it, and then 2 or 3 years of doing research and working on your dissertation. So once I got to the dissertation phase, I didn't have to go to class so much anymore, but I had to carve out time to write. And so all of that time commitment is really important to think about as you're pursuing this. And if there's anything that you want to learn more about, just put it in the comments and I can make a video. Okay, let's move on to number 4. Okay, number 4, and I already did talk a little bit about this, but it's financial commitment. So you might already still be paying off student loans. And this is a part of it. This is a part of education is student loans. So you might have your bachelor student loans, master student loans. For me, this was the key in my starting the PhD, is that I didn't want to take out any loans. So what this meant for me is that as I said, I took a full year leave of absence from teaching because the PhD program was going to give me funding. So I would teach courses and I would take courses, and I had to pay some fees. So each year, each semester, maybe I had to pay $500 to $1,000 in fees. And that got me through my first year where I took a ton of classes and I got a lot of experience teaching. And also I was able to attend conferences and do some writing. But financially, I had taken a big pay cut that year, and we just tightened our belts on a lot of things without not going out to eat and canceling some subscriptions and things like that. Subscriptions? Yeah, subscriptions. Um, so they can be expensive and they can take many years. And you can also, you can take a break at some point. You could take a semester off and come back. But you want to look at tuition costs. You want to look at loss of income. If you reduce your teaching hours, if you can go part-time, you have to talk to your family. If you have other financial responsibilities, all of that is really important to think about. And it really is for the long haul. Like I think I did mine in about under 4 years, but some people take 7 years and you have 10 to finish it, depending on the pace that works for you. Okay, number 5 is your support system. So this is a really important part, is to have a strong support system and talk to your family about what you're about to embark upon. Talk to your family, your friends, your principal, your colleagues at school. They need to know because support is vital. There are some online communities of PhD students that you can join, like on Facebook or Instagram or whatever, so you can get some moral support from people who are not your friends and family, because your friends and family are going to be wanting your attention. And so when you're struggling, they're not always going to want to hear what you're struggling with. So you might want to go to these PhD groups to be able to complain and have a little bit of commiseration. But your family member need to know what's going on. And so if you're interested, I can show you another video about how to make your schedule for the PhD. I made a calendar every week, or every semester, and I printed it out and put it on our refrigerator. And so every time my partner had a question, I would say, look at the schedule. And if the schedule changed, I would, change it. So we were always in communication about what my schedule looked like, what his schedule looked like. And on the plan, I always had a big block of time on Sunday where I would not do any schoolwork. So my partner knew that he could have my full attention. And I also had some time for exercising. I would usually do that really early in the morning to not impede on other time that I would have with my loved ones. But it's really important that they understand what's going on and why you're doing it so that they can support you. Okay, number 6. Number 6 is balancing teaching and research. So juggling a full-time job with your PhD already is going to be a lot. You need excellent time management and organization skills. The calendar is everything. So you want to create a schedule that allows you to do your teaching, do your writing, do your reading, all of those kinds of things. Once you get into the later stages when you're working on your dissertation, you want to make sure that you have time for a lot of reading and a lot of writing. And that can be hours and hours. For me, I went to the library and worked. I had a local library that I use right down the street. Sometimes I would go to campus and write for a while. But you spend more time researching and writing when you're not in class. So in class, it's kind of clear you have your 3 hours to go to class. But once your coursework is over, you need to carve time to do your reading and your research and your writing. And that takes a ton of time. So balancing teaching and research is everything. Okay, number 7 is on campus versus online. Now, when I was doing my PhD, it was completely in person, nothing was online. But right now, I'm a professor now, so some of the programs are online. So I know a little bit about that too. And I'll tell you, it's really important for me that when I'm teaching online, that the students have their cameras on so that we're engaged, so we can make eye contact, so we can see mannerisms, so we can see smiles. This is essential to keeping it professional, but also still feeling like you have access to your professors and colleagues. When you're in person, you have that entire time dedicated to being with your professor and your colleagues when you're meeting in person. You bring food. You have your notebooks, you have your extra layers in the winter or summer clothing, you're hydrating, you have all the things that you need. You take all this extra time to prepare to be ready for your 3 hours of learning. And there's lots of moments where you are laughing. Sometimes, honestly, I was crying in some of the classes. And I think There's so many serendipitous things and unplanned moments that happen. Also, there's great partnering where you're just kind of talking to each other. You have, make eye contact across the room and you become partners, or you have a water break and you chit chat in the hallway. There's so many things that happen with that. And when you're on campus, you can go to lectures, you can visit office hours, you can explore. There's just a beautiful thing about that if you can. If you're online, you don't have to do as much prep. You can just kind of turn on the camera and you're ready to go. But I would still argue that there's still some preparation that you have to do. Like I have my snacks and I have my water and I have my books. I'm ready to go. I let my family know that I'm going to be in class for a while. So there's a lot to think about online versus in person. Okay, number 8 is research opportunities. So depending on your reason for getting a PhD, it's really important to think about the research that you might be doing. You do have to do a dissertation if you're doing a PhD, um, and you want all the support that you can leading up to your dissertation with interaction with professors, courses, of course, and practice writing and doing research before your dissertation. At a university, you have opportunities to do this. You just have to seek them out or talk to your advisor about what's possible. So for me, at my university, I work with graduate students and undergraduate students on several research projects. So I offer this as a research project. We go through some research training. We develop the project together. We do an IRB, which is most of our research is with human subjects. So we have to have permission to interview and conduct research with human subjects, which is just like talking to kids and talking to teachers. It's really great. But you need some certification to do that and an advisor to help you do that. And then you do the research, you analyze the research, you write it, you send it out for publication. When it comes back, you make revisions. All these things you get to do with a faculty member or with a research group. And so when you're researching the PhD program, make sure or ask about these opportunities to collaborate with faculty and other graduate students to develop research along what they're interested in. And then sometimes you're able to propose projects that you might do if you're in a research collaborative. So that's another great option. Okay, number 9 or 9. Oh, 9. This is your career impact. So a PhD can open doors to higher education teaching positions, administrative roles, advanced research opportunities. So you want to think about how this degree is going to affect your career trajectory. And remember, teaching for life is about thinking about being a teacher for your whole life and the different roles that you might take as a teacher. So think about where you want to be in the next 5 years or 10 years and how the PhD fits into it. When I started my PhD, I was in year 6. When I finished it, I was in year 10. And when I was finished with my degree, I had no interest in changing jobs. I was happy to go back to my full-time teaching. I was happy to have my salary and my benefits and to be with colleagues and to apply all the things that I had learned in my program. I was so happy to be back teaching, and I was not in a hurry to leave. And so I kept teaching for another 4 or 5 years as a junior high teacher before I left to go into higher education. And in that time, I was writing books, I was doing research, I had a blog, a website, I was going to conferences. I had met so many people in my PhD program, so I was able to stay in touch with professors and graduate students and professional learning communities. It changed my teaching, and it solved the problem that I had with burning out because it reinvigorated my teaching career, and I loved it. And it wasn't until 2019 that this opportunity came up that was a really good fit for me to make the shift to higher education. And it came at a good time. It came at a good time for us. And I can tell you more about how that worked out later if you're interested. But I had to think about what I wanted to be in 5 years, and I knew I just wanted to still be a teacher. In 10 years, I didn't really know, but I knew I wanted to have options, I guess. So the PhD made it an option for me to go into higher ed whenever I was ready. Some people also will begin a nonprofit or get a job in creating teacher resources or any number of those things, or advocacy as well. And finally, number 10, thinking about making the move to start your PhD program is a lot about professional growth, but number 10 is about personal growth. And so it's beyond those professional benefits. A PhD journey is a profound personal growth experience. I can't underscore that enough. You'll develop critical thinking skills, resilience, and a deeper understanding for your field for sure. During my PhD program, I was on a couple fellowships. I presented in a lot of different states and countries. I traveled to Bosnia Herzegovina, Sarajevo, to present on my research about genocide. I went to Guatemala with a research group, with a group of teachers to learn about the genocide in Guatemala, but more importantly, the culture and the rich language and beauty of the people there. I joined a ton of professional organizations like National Council Teachers of English and National Writing Project. I met so many people there. I met people through my blog, through Ethical ELA, and those are, again, personal or professional, but I met so many people. And that also kept my life invigorated. It kept me connected to people beyond my school. I love the teachers that I work with at school and the families, but having a network beyond where I was teaching showed me that there's always hope, there's always possibilities, and also offered kind of a window in a mirror, to quote Rudine Sims Bishop, about the different things going on in the teaching world. And all of that just helped me grow professionally and helped me kind of gain confidence in who I am and what contribution I can make. I didn't have to be like anybody else. I could just be who I was among these people that was grounded in our professional world with the new knowledge that I was developing, and all really so that we can be better teachers for the human beings that we serve. So that was number 10, personal growth. It's still professional though, right? Okay, so we talked about 10 different things to consider when you are contemplating starting a PhD. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. And if you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more content on education and personal development and teaching for life. If you have questions or want to share your experiences, you can drop a comment below. Good luck on your PhD journey, and remember this: